Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
Hi, my name is Haneri. I'm a singer-songwriter, and you are listening to Nerd On.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome.
Yeah, you are.
So let's just get straight into it because I'm very excited for today. So today your hosts are me. Hi, I'm Caitlyn.
I'm Tom.
I'm Corey still.
And I am still Josh.
Wow.
And this episode is still brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks like early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get access to channels in our Discord that are only for you, members of the Nerd On Nation. And discounts on merch. There's a whole slew of awesome things. Do check out that. It is nerdon.io/Patreon. And check out that Discord, nerdon.io/Discord. And a huge shout out.
That.
Yes, check that out. A huge shout out to our partners, Apogee Electronics, who have equipped us with these awesome microphones, the Hype Mic, and
The ultimate podcasting microphone.
and Odyssey headphones. And Corey wasn't here last time, but they have recognized the officially recognized the phrase
On
that
their official social media.
if your ears were mouths, they'd taste like butter.
It's true. Your
not
ear would be
false,
like,
guys. I know I said it as a joke the first time, but it is real. These
It is
sound
real.
amazing.
They do
I've been
sound
playing
good.
World of Warcraft with these on.
Yeah?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Nice.
And then a Corey got his wings.
So that is the
Oh.
housekeeping. Caitlin, what are we here about?
oh my gosh. All
What do we
right.
hear about?
So, all right. Everyone loves Ghibli. Like, seriously. We don't think we come across anyone that hasn't found their Miyazaki film at this point, I think. Today, we are joined by a fellow lover of the animation Mecca across the pond, by one of our coolest guests, which happens to be friends with one of our own. It's me, in case you didn't know. Known around the world for being on the pioneer season of Singaporean Idol, her album Desperate, and coming out with her brand new single, Why Didn't You Say So? Haneri joins us to talk about Howl's Moving Castle.
So many topics.
I heard explosions, so I ducked.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
Enjoy.
so yeah, thank you so much, Haneri, for coming on the show with us today.
Dope, dope, dope.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
And
Oh, sorry.
also, at this time of the recording, you are in a different country.
I am. It is 2 a.m.
Very kind of you.
All of
Thank
us
you.
just
I'm
died
sorry,
a little
it's so
inside.
We're all rested, having coffee. You know,
Yeah, right.
just like Red Bull with some energy drinks, please.
Coffee? It's a terrible idea.
Is this like really late for you though?
It is. I think as I've been making music a lot, it used to be cool to stay up late and work, but I've realized that if I wake up early and start working early, then I can sleep early and then wake up early. It's this crazy phenomenon that
About
I've
being an adult.
realized getting.
I've been trying to do that, and my body just disagrees with it. Like, I'm
Wow.
gonna go to bed at 10, and it's like, okay, 4. Can we make it in the middle right at 4 a.m.? Is that cool? No,
no in between.
no.
Well, I'm sure it's also
help.
I'm sure it's also different, like with creativity. Like you want to be awake when your brain is awake and doing the creative thing.
Yeah, totally. I think also I just moved back to Asia from LA, but a lot of the people that I work with actually like writing in the day, which is nice and refreshing. And I don't know if it's because we're all getting older, but
Well,
I'm down with
There may be a little bit of that, a little bit more responsibility leaking in.
but I mean, it's also not to mention that America is very different from any Asian country you'll be in because, you know, I think America loves to romanticize the hard and struggle and all that stuff. And like, I don't know if you guys ever tried I think it's a Salvador Dali method where you sit and you have a key and you have a plate and then you stay up as
Oh.
you kind of sit up, and then the moment like you start falling asleep, you'll let go of the key, and then you
Mhm.
fall on
Hits
the
the
plate,
plate,
and then
makes
it
a
plate,
huge
and then it wakes
noise.
you up, and then so that part of your brain starts functioning, and it's the same part that starts dreaming. It's almost like REM or REM sleep, and so that's when you start writing. And I was like, that sounds like
What?
the most
It's-
brutal torture
You're
I've ever heard in my
You're
life.
basically hacking your brain.
Yeah,
That
You're
sounds
trying
I
to
awful.
love that stuff. I'm gonna go try it.
try it. I mean,
She's like, right
hey,
after this, I'm gonna go hold a key over a plate for like an hour.
I've done it once or twice, and I've been like, that's some crazy stuff, baby. But
I've read that
Um,
it's good to be creative at night. Like I've read because the world is so quiet, like it's much more quiet at night. And like I've even read that like the golden hour, like when it's like 3 or 4, something like that.
that's
where-
when the ghosts come.
Yeah, but I've heard creative people say
Oh.
that that's the best time to write.
That's
or
also
do the
when
thing.
all the horror movies, like in their world, that's when they start. Have you seen
sounds about right.
Strangers?
That sounded about right. I think in Asia, I live with my family, so there's just never, it's never quiet. This is
Oh.
quiet it's gonna get, and that's because my sisters
sleep.
have moved out and my parents are old. So, they're but
Fair.
You're like, I love you if you're watching this.
my mom
Well,
had asked me 3 times what I'm doing tonight. I was like, forget about it. Don't worry about it.
I've
It's
had
fine,
that
Dad.
conversation. So wait, how do this is more a question for both of you. How do you, Caitlyn and Haneri, how do you guys know each other? How did this happen?
You want to tell it?
I would love to hear your perspective on how things unfolded.
Whoa.
Well, I was on this website one. No, I'm kidding.
Chat
She
roulette.
swiped right.
I swiped right, and it was right. But no, I joined this recording studio in LA when I moved to LA at the end of 2016, and I had been working there for a while. And I think I was on tour when you started.
That sounds right. Yeah, because they needed a little extra help. So I was just there kind of sort of tempish.
And you were there for like a Christmas party that I
Yep.
missed. And there were photos of you everywhere. And I was like, who is this girl? And I never met her because she worked weekends, or she worked when I wasn't working. So therefore, we never met. And then when we did, it was like,
Epic.
I just asked where Caitlyn was all the time.
Wow.
Electricity everywhere, the energy swirling.
Time with Kat.
You guys just sleepless in Seattle each other?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I saw a
Essentially, yeah.
picture and I had to draw you.
What is it? What do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fact.
That's what it was. Now I'm on the other side of the world, so I'll miss you forever.
I know.
Aw.
Well, it's
It got
been
bittersweet real quick.
I feel like we didn't see each other a whole lot when we both lived in LA. And now that you're in Singapore, I talk to you more, I think, now than I did when you were here.
That's true. I was in limbo. So like when I left, and Caitlyn will know because she and 2 other girls that started when I was on tour, I would be like, I don't work here anymore. But I was there almost every day for another year because I just wasn't sure what I was doing.
Kind of being a manager sometimes, kind of doing the front desk sometimes.
They just call me because I couldn't do anything else. So they'd be like, can you come in? I'm like, well, I guess I have nothing better to do. So
In between tour,
yeah. Well, in between tour, you just have to force yourself to write when you're not working.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Make no money.
I think that's a really important thing too. I think, a lot of people are like, I have to dedicate this time to go eat. I have to dedicate this time to go sleep. But then the writing aspect is very like, people find it that like you have to just muse yourself into it. But if you don't dedicate your diligence to write, then sometimes it just never happens.
hmm
Definitely. And I
Um,
think to Thomas's point, right?
That's right.
You
For
can
me, that's
point
correct.
whichever
Don't-
direction
yeah.
you want, but it may
don't
not
point
matter
anywhere.
for the final.
We're going to be everywhere.
To his point.
Exactly. That's perfect.
When inspiration does strike, when it's like the quietest it can possibly be, whenever that moment is, then I just write bullet points and nuggets of whatever my brain is thinking. And then when I'm stuck, I go back to it. But
Yeah.
it has helped me for the most part till maybe about 2 weeks ago. I've been kind of stuck.
Then you get art block, and that's fun.
Yeah.
That's why I think voice memos are so magical. I'm addicted to making voice memos just to myself. Like, remember this line? Remember this
Yeah.
for later.
Even for
How's
like
that?
for me as a songwriter, when even a word, like if I hear a word that is used differently or something like that, I'm like, oh, that's a really good like, or even like a title of a song, or like I think of a rhyme or something like that. I'm like,
He's
oh,
like, I'm gonna try to rhyme this cucumber
Yeah.
with dumber.
Cucumber's hard to rhyme with.
I recently did it on a Jackbox game, so it's not impossible.
Wow.
Only think of Veggie Tales.
You gotta find a way how you're gonna. I just like to talk a lot of smack, so I was just like, I'm gonna rhyme something with cucumber, and then it's gonna be
Wow.
fire. That's my only impetus to do that.
Speaking
But
of
calendars,
writing prowess, though. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. What?
I just said you got to challenge yourself.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
cucumber.
But speaking of writing prowess, that's kind of like how we met. But like up to that point, you were on tour for music. So maybe give us a little backstory on where you've come from musically speaking.
Oh, very great linkage. Right word to use. Good segue.
It's like you.
It's you.
Ham-fisted.
I see it. I go for it. Well, I've been a musician my whole life. My mom said it sounds really typical, but I sang before I could talk, or rather, I sang and talked. I sang talked when I started talking. And I have a little sister, and she wouldn't fall asleep unless I would sing her a book, and so I'd make up melodies, and I just loved doing it, and it was just a big part of how I express myself because I'm Asian, so we
Shout
don't
out.
do feelings. So exactly.
Wow.
The only way that I could express it appropriately was to do it in song, and so that's kind of where I started. And then I was on a TV show when I was 16, and that's where I started in Singapore, and that was a long time ago. Then I moved to the States, and I went to school at Berkeley. And then I lived in New York for a while, came back to Singapore, and then lived in LA, and now I'm back in Singapore. But making music the whole time.
And you've kind of hopped all over the place with working with different artists on some cool projects. You worked with Freddie Wong on something. You had
You
oh
were.
my goodness.
I mean, some of your music. One
Yes,
song
Tom.
in particular was in a personal idol of mine, Wong Fu. But you've also worked with producers with Avicii and Rehab.
I
don't
didn't
know.
actually work with Avicii. So this is a
Collaborators,
fun story.
producers, right?
So he had this thing called Avicii XU. So he wanted to get people to collaborate with him on his next single, which marketing wise is genius. But he put out a chord progression for 2 months and let people submit their kicks, their snares, their synths, whatever. And then this production duo, Canadian production duo that I was working with, I don't know why that's important, but anyway, you have that information now.
Mhm.
They wanted to do hijack, I don't know, a bootleg version of it. So they released it at 11:30 before he released it at midnight. And I sang over that, but it got so big because people thought that
It
was
was real.
the song.
Oh shit.
It's a real true story. Yeah. That it went viral, and then everyone thought that was the Avicii song. I don't even really, I think I liked the actual Avicii song, but it went out everywhere, and I was in the States. But there were a bunch of magazines and newspapers that wrote that I worked with Avicii, and I was like, oh my gosh, how do I fix this?
Front row.
No,
all right, let it go.
exactly. No, not bad marketing.
Yeah. That was the Avicii.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
I can definitely deny. Take it down. Take it down.
Yeah.
It's traditional media. So.
And talking about music as well, you first was kind of introduced to the world, with Singapore Idol. I don't know if I'm saying that
That
right.
was the show. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it was as Daphne Koo, right?
My birth name. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you later changed to Haneri to be able to write about, deeper things and not stick to one particular genre, because you felt that the name would allow you to reset, as well as be able to, give you a new place where you can write things differently. And so it's a Hawaiian translation of your Chinese name.
Yeah. So when I was thinking of because I sing with a pretty neutral, if not American accent. I'm Australian, but I sing with a.
I know
I mean,
you're hiding it pretty well.
We have a couple of shots, and you never know. Level wasted. That's Aussie wasted. So when I get there, that's like
The
the
true
next
you.
Mandarin. No idea I don't even know what I'm saying at that point. But so I wanted the name to sound Asian because my English name is Daphne, and then no one can pronounce my last name. And like Khoo is pronounced Koo. Some people pronounce it Ko or Kahoo. I don't know.
I've met some Ko's,
Sounds
but
like
it's
some
only
Dr.
one.
Seuss.
I've met some Ko's, but it's only one O. So it's like, how do you mess that up? I don't know.
I mean, and then when you say Koo, then people are like KU or KHO. They don't know how to spell it. So I figure, why not just like revamp it? And I'd wanted to because the music that I made when I was 16 and the music that I made when I like a decade later,
A little different.
Different person.
Totally different person, different colored hair, different thing.
That's different life
very-
experiences.
You know,
That's
life experiences. More importantly,
that's crazy. That's really interesting because I think for me as a filmmaker, artist, blah, whatever, I've always went by Tom because I always wanted to make people's lives easier. And then more and more as I get older, and I think this is like every Asian artist goes through this same kind of thing where it's like, I just want to be accepted. And then it's like, but I also want to be, and then all of a sudden later on they grow and they're like, I want to be me. And people are going to have to understand that. And then so, like you going into closer, like it's a way that you identified your own name in a way so that other people can see it. For me, like if I went by my real Asian name, I'd be like, nah, no one's going to understand that. No one's going to be able to pronounce this at all. It's going to be a nightmare.
Haneri is not my Chinese name. It's the name my grandpa gave me. And then I translated it to like 80 different languages. And I mean, I was at the village when I did it. I was working. And I would just write down the ones that like in my free time when I had like a minute or two to spare, I would keep translating it and writing it down. And I still have the photo of the piece of paper where Haneri Miliona was. So my grandpa named me E, which, let's be real, E is not a superstar name.
It sounds like a letter.
E.
Yeah.
E.
E also means one in Chinese. So it means a million things.
You're number one.
Number one. E.
But this particular E meant 100 million because my grandpa wanted me to be plentiful and to always have, which is the goal. 100 million, it's not.
Is there any pressure with that though?
I mean, if there is, I'm completely ignoring it.
I mean, so my Asian name means always victorious, and then my last name means like the most beautiful crisp cut diamond. I was like, yo, I can't live
That's some
up to
pressure.
this. I'm like, exactly. I was like, yo,
about your inside.
I guess, but I'm like the worst. Like I've said this once, and I'll be very short. It's like I was a monk for a while, but I'm the worst person to be a monk. So I'm like, I'm not going to live up to
confirm.
I have to just be who I am, and that's just.
My name is Gaelic for the hollow tree where a raven lives. So what do I have on my shoulders? I guess.
Have life.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
There you go.
I like
Look
that.
at you. You're so
not
good
a whole
at
lot
finding
of
the
pressure
silver
on that one,
linings.
guys. Not a whole lot of.
Just live.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is just whatever. A tree with a raven. Cool.
Wow.
So you also
Ravens
say
are
that you're.
singing birds. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say ravens are singing birds, so that also they're very poetic.
It's
birds.
also my favorite bird, so it works out just fine. I'm happy with it. No complaints. No perfect diamonds for me. That's fine.
So E, which your grandfather named you,
Yes.
and then just
It
translate
means
it.
100 million, and then Hawaiian it's Haneri Miliona. So I went with Haneri, and that's just the new alias, which I like, and it's still me. It's very Asian sounding. I would be a fool if I said I would be a fool if I said that people can't make a mistake with this name, because I thought it's very like you sound it out, Haneri, but there's also like Haneri, Hanari.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned over the past 3 years there are many ways to mess up the spelling, this pronunciation of Haneri. So
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's an idiot around. You know
There's a
what I'm
lot of people in the world.
A lot of different perspectives.
I can't tell you how many times I've been called corny, and I can't believe that. Yeah.
I
That
mean,
stuck in high school when a substitute
corny
teacher called that.
powders.
Yeah, corny powers. And I was like,
It's
Nice.
just like it's like a Key and Peele,
We're keeping it.
Aaron, Jake Quellen, D Nice,
Quellen?
you know, it's like all
wow.
that. So I mean, you've been able to tour around a lot of countries, a lot around the world, and it's such a, like a, you know, I don't want to say like it's such an early age, but like, you know, it's an experience I think most of our listeners aren't familiar to. But one thing I do want to think that they are familiar of is embarrassing events in your life. And in an interview, you did say that one of the most embarrassing events that ever happened to you on TV or on camera was when you were running on a stage and it was a fully waxed stage and then you fell and wiped out. And your mom caught it on camera. Has anything been topped since then?
Oh my
I told you
goodness.
he deep dives.
Probably. No, but this was bad. Like that one was bad. I was super enthusiastically running across the stage in these stiletto heels. You know, I'm a super tomboy, but I learned how to do it for the stage. And my mom has my little camcorder where she used to, I was like, it was my momager. She would come and, you know,
Nice.
take care of me during the shows, which was awesome.
of course.
You literally like I reviewed it because I was trying to digitize all the media in the house. You literally watch me go across the stage, and then my mom for some reason zooms in, and then I disappear because like
The zoom in.
That's
she
perfect.
The
goes,
zoom in.
what happened?
Oh no.
Exasperated. I'm sure if I don't know if I can talk about this. Sure, whatever. So a couple of years after that, I mean, I never wanted to talk about it because I didn't think it was that bad. But then I rewatched the footage a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Ooh,
Oh,
much
woof.
You're hyping it up.
There are many events where my mom should not have been my fashion advisor because looking back, that was a bad idea. The other day I was doing a show and she was like, "Are you sure you want to wear that?" I'm like, "Are you sure you want to give me fashion advice?"
I have documents.
Exhibit A,
Here's my receipt.
14 years old. What was that?
Phase 1, phase 2. And she just was like, "Okay, that's fine, whatever." But I'm already so embarrassed that I already started telling the story, but I will finish it. So there was like a variety game show. They wanted to do something like the Japanese variety game show.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of them it's kind of like the one where you have to do the shape and then
Mhm.
Yes.
a bunch of stuff like that. And I was young. Okay. I was like, you know, knowing about my body type situation.
Oh.
And I didn't realize that I just had the wrong bra on the whole
Oh
time.
no.
And
Oh no.
no one reviewed it. And now I know why. Because it was probably really uncomfortable to watch me.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So we get soaked with water, you know, and it was really
Oh
inappropriate.
no.
Very underage. So,
Where was this at?
this was in Singapore. This was in
Oh.
Asia.
Oh.
on
Oh
national television.
no. Oh no.
No.
It's so it's okay because this
I don't think you'll ever be able to find. I think they took it down.
Probably
Okay,
yeah,
because it's
sounds like
inappropriate.
it.
This is-
Sounds like it.
this is where I come from. It like because like I'm pretty big on like if I see somebody, you know, like hey, they don't want to probably be remembered or seen that way. Like, you know, sometimes underwear rides up, sometimes flies fall down, sometimes straps come around.
That's
and you're
life.
like, hey yo. I was like, I'm just looking out. No one did that. You had no homies to help you out around.
I'm sure it's one of those things where, like, when the show already started, it's like almost impossible to pluck you out of the
Everything's in
center of
slow motion.
everything.
But between stations, I
Yeah.
feel like
Oh,
a girlfriend would have been
See?
hey,
like, "Want patting?" or I don't know.
Something.
I would have appreciated some help. And only one person really told me about it when the show had aired. And it was like, I didn't know if he was trying to like make a move or whatever, but I was very awkward with boys at that stage. So I was just like, okay, yeah, thanks.
I mean, it's also hard for.
Okay,
I mean,
awesome. All right.
in the positive light, if they're like me, then it's also like, how do you bring this up? You know, it's like, how do you let them know? Be like, hey, I'm just trying to look out. But also, if they're a
He was
creep,
probably
then
trying to do me a favor too. And it's like, it's already up there, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
or they're a creep and you'll never see them again. So
Well, on the other side of the coin, though,
Yeah.
what's a time where like in your writing, in your performing, like so there's like mass embarrassment that we've just covered, but there's
Redemption.
a moments of like strength or inspiration or feeling really in the flow with like your music and your process. Is there a time of that you remember that was in front of an audience or like just writing privately? Like
I think I've had a few of those moments. I'm really grateful for them. But I think the greatest story for me for my life so far, hopefully there are more, but I remember watching Gloria Estefan sing Reach for the Olympics in like 1998 or something. I don't know. But anyway, I remember being so inspired by her doing that. And I was like, I want to do that one day. Like, I want to do that. I told my whole family, I was like, I'm going to do that. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. And then
You're sweet.
like verbatim almost.
wow.
But was probably an uncle. But anyway, so 20 years later, when I had to move, I moved back to Singapore because I submitted a song for this thing called the Southeast Asian Games, which is like the SEA Game, which is like the Olympics for Southeast Asia. So it's called this.
shout out.
Yes. And they were holding it in Singapore for 2015. So in 2013, they had already started getting people to write the theme song. And so I was still at Berkeley in Boston. And my mom was like, oh, check this out. You should do this. You should do this. Because, you know, my mom is like my mom. And yes, cheerleader, momager all the way. Ethan, mom, you can do it. So I wrote this song and my boyfriend at the time produced it. He's an incredible producer. And we submitted it. And then a year later, they were like, we got so many great submissions. We're going to put it all into an album, but we have 3 theme songs and you wrote one of them. So
awesome.
That was like my moment. And they wanted to get a really big artist to sing it at the opening ceremony, but she was too expensive. So they were like, you do it. And I was like, okay.
Whoa.
God.
I sang for like the biggest audience I've ever, the stadium held like 50,000 people. And that like walking out that moment, I was like, I did it.
You did it.
It's done.
It's done. All right, I'm done.
Thank you.
now.
Good night.
Done with this.
And
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome.
And
That's amazing.
buddy, I'm done here.
So do you
And that just
like,
fueled more, I'm assuming. Just like this. More of this, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you-
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I really was kind of like, okay, like I guess I'm done now for a while.
just took a little breather?
I've been stalking as an independent artist for all 17 years of my career. I've had
Wow.
some managers come in and help, but I've done everything myself, from graphic design to marketing to writing the copy to everything.
That's
I'm
dope.
exhausted.
Yeah.
You're like, I needed a little bit of a break.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, we split those duties between 5 of us, and I'm exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, with,
You're
with-
like a powerhouse human.
I mean, when you're an
Let's
independent artist like that, you have to. I'm sure your skill set is very wide because you're like, I don't know how to use Photoshop, but I'm gonna learn. And I don't know how to write copy for marketing, but I'm gonna learn.
Well, my parents set me up real nice because they made me get a mass comm degree, like a media degree, before I did
Oh,
music.
shit.
So I pretty much had dipped my toes in like beginner courses for everything.
Wow.
That's what's up.
Thankfully.
That's
And
like
then YouTube, to graduate.
Yeah.
So
YouTube college.
That's like the nice version of my family. They're like, it will never happen. And then like I was like, I'm going to study all this media stuff and then start doing film stuff. And then they're just like, you sure you still want to do this? So I mean, like I've had to do it similar where it's like, I gotta learn this, baby. I gotta learn. But we're also here to a little bit talk about you have a new single coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the mounts of internet that I had to scour through, we're talking about Burning Up, and was talking about like your perspective on abusive relationships and how it's not always one-sided. And that kind of came with a little bit of with the alias change. What can you tell us about this new single?
So definitely becoming Haneri in 2017 was like a really big deal. I wanted to get as much press as possible because I knew if I didn't, nobody would listen to the new music. So I wanted to make sure that because this song meant a lot to me. I don't really talk about any of my relationships really too publicly. I'm mostly single most of the time.
Shout out.
But but I have been in this situation more than once, and I talk to a lot of girls about it, and I'm also a cancer survivor, and I talk about that a lot too. So I wanted to talk about the things that were hard to talk about because in Asia, we just don't. We don't talk about pap smears. We don't talk about health. We don't talk about anything that means anything. As long as it can be a conversation that can be quickly wrapped up, then we can talk about that. But if it's an open-ended conversation where we have to get uncomfortable, it just never happens. So I wanted to be Asian and get uncomfortable with people.
Shout out.
So Burning Up was like a fun, sad way of talking about abusive relationships and how people get addicted to it, how people stay in it. And then the next single, Feel Alright, which actually went like viral, did really, really well. I did not publicize as much, but it was just about me hating living in LA. And it was just really honest.
I feel it sometimes.
Yeah. I loved it. It was like the greatest ride of my life, but I was miserable a lot. I was so miserable and lonely. I got a dog, which I'm very grateful for.
Snowball.
Love of my life. Yeah. And sitting in a little ball there.
Hence the name.
Exactly. And after Feel Alright, I did a song about falling in love with my dog. Not in that way.
Right, no. In the
Very
way that pet
normal.
owners do.
Yes.
The way the pet owners
There's
do.
a look I give my cat, I give no one else. And it doesn't mean anything more than just, this is
I
my
try to
cat.
get the look out of them sometimes. It doesn't work.
No, they won't happen.
And they look back. They do. They know it.
They do.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. She has this like teacup poodle that her mom like spoils. And she named her dog Rabbit. Don't ask me why. We're Asian. There's no explanation. So she said, have you ever tried with your dog to like pretend to die and see if she comes to your
care care about you?
She's like, Rabbit doesn't care. And I'm like, girl, it's just been snowballing me for so long. If I as so much as shed a tear, she'll be like, what's wrong?
Oh no.
The greatest thing ever.
Please don't be sad. I'm sorry.
I used to do that with my dog, and then I did it one too many times, and she was like, bullshit. Not happening. Like, I know this.
I'm done caring.
God.
I've cared too many times. You've burned me.
How dare you, sir?
It's my own fault.
I hope I never get to that stage. But, so the single that came out right before the one that's coming out was called I Don't Want to Love You. And this whole, I call it the Miliona era because I kind of turned up the notch on the retro vibe. And it's super disco funk pop.
Nice.
Dope.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
calling it. It's really fun.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. But it didn't seem appropriate for it. It didn't feel like a good time for it to come out when it was supposed to come out because of all the stuff that
The world.
should be talking about.
Because reasons.
Have been ended because
Right.
world,
Yeah.
Progression.
because pandemic, and
Yeah.
a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I talked to my team, and by team I just mean the one person that helps me put out the music, and she was like, "Oh, I think it's time. I think people need music that makes them happy again."
Yes.
So I have Can I swear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this song is about fuckboys.
Oh,
The
nice.
next single is about a friend who, we didn't talk about what it was we were doing, and then just got butthurt that we didn't talk about it. And I was like, why didn't you say so?
Okay, first of all,
Express yourself.
burning up, talking about abusive relationships and how we get into them. Now you're talking about fuckboys. I feel like you're attacking me, and we don't even know each other. And I don't get it. I don't know what I've done. We were supposed to,
Tom got
represent,
called out.
hang out.
Yeah.
I feel
Your life.
red. I feel. That's awesome. No, I mean, I'll be 100% honest. I was listening to your Desperate album and listening to all your music and on your YouTube channel, and I was just like, and so it was interesting seeing your progression and how it went to, and I think you've talked about it where it was kind of like you wanted to talk about deeper things, and it just resonated with me because your earlier stuff, it is. A little lighthearted. There's some poppiness to it, like a little 90s, a little Christina Aguilera. I hear a little.
It was made in the 90s. No, it wasn't. It was made in the 2000s, but I was made in the 80s. So
Yay.
And then now going into like the deeper stuff, I think it is really important, especially because, Asian people are really weird and they don't like talking about deep stuff. So I think the Asian people that do want to hear about it, and that's the thing about Asian audiences, like. They're loyal. They're ride or die, baby. It's crazy. So, I thought it was really cool.
yeah, I don't know them yet, but I will.
You will.
I will.
You have a very dedicated fan base. I mean, you're looking at one of them right now. So
I read the comments. I see all of them be like, "You got to make an acoustic version. You got to make an acoustic version." I see all those. So
I'm grateful. I also wanted to shout out to my Asian heritage though, because I feel like I need to state for the record that I am in a position where I'm privileged to talk about this stuff. I mean, there are a lot of cases where girls from my generation had it so bad that having your own thoughts is not allowed. That still happens a lot, and it confuses a lot of people. And that's why I want to make sure that no one grows up in that kind of society. Even if the people you look up to are telling you that that's not okay, I want to at least be there to possibly slap them back and be like, it is okay. Go have a cry, girl. You do you. But I think it's important because this hasn't been represented in my culture or in my age group or reached out to me when I was younger. So, I mean, I'm very big on that because the way I grew up is already privileged. So I can't imagine what being even more emotionally stunted it would be like. So
I won't name names, but I definitely have those experiences with the Asian people I grew up with, and it's definitely weird because I'm going to steal this line from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where it's like if your rivers of wisdom are only from one source and you're not allowed to explore different ones, then you become rigid and everything tends to just break around you, and it's crazy, and I think it's a little highbrow, but it's like I've seen exactly what you're talking about, where there's a lot of social and traditional dogma that happens in Asian communities where your parents say this one thing and you're not really allowed to form your own opinions, and whether they're quote unquote wrong opinions, you're allowed to at least explore, fall on your butt, then come back and be like, all right, mom, dad, you're right. But then a lot of times, like, there's just so much fear and there's a lot of kind of control in a way, and I think I vibe with that, where there is a privilege of being an Asian person and allowing to feel that you're an open book or you're allowed to just express who you are, because beyond Asian people there are things where you're not allowed to feel, like that happens with men and masculinity, but it's just a different conversation when it comes to Asian people, and then also comes to a different conversation about Asian women. So like there's that deeper layer every time you go in and add the facet to it. So
I do think that a big part of the problem was that it's not even part of the conversation. It's just like it's avoided, it's skipped, it doesn't exist. It's like, what did you say? No.
Yeah. I mean, try to talk about mental health, right?
Yeah.
it's just like
the
no, you
laugh
just
that you just gave.
you're just tired. Go drink some water. Go sleep in a bed.
Oh my god.
And it's like, oh, are you hungry? Yeah, let me make you something.
Telling your parents that you have an emotional issue or like a mental issue, it's like telling them you have a fever. They're just like, I can literally is like, no la, you're fine. You broke. Literally, it's like expensive. You're fine. You can sleep it off. You'll be okay.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's how my dad is, but my mom has like completely 180'd it. And so the moment I'd be like, yeah, I had a bad day at work, and then she's just like, I'm so sorry. I was like, yo, this is normal. Like, I need you when
You have the two extremes, is what you're saying, Tom. You have
And
like,
so
there's
my dad,
no like, well, just tell me about your day.
yeah, I mean, my dad would be like the person, like, if I cried watching a movie, he's like, crying's for girls. I'm like, okay, I'm a girl now. And then, my mom would be just like, she's always been like, she's like, you and I are the same. Like, we're hard on the outside, but we're like a feather on the inside. If like someone just touches it,
This
it
is
hurts.
true.
And I was just like, Mom, don't put that on me. Don't put this evil on me. You know, so
Don't you put that on me,
implanted
Ricky
it.
Bobby.
yeah. But I do want to ask a little bit. You are talking about your Asian heritage. We did talk about this in the digital green room. What is your way to politically correctly ask someone what their ethnic background is, if they're Asian?
So I actually this works on all ethnicities.
All right.
Ooh.
Okay.
Um,
Take notes, kids. Take notes.
Hooray. Okay.
I always ask very politely. It's also a good way to open up a conversation. What is your ethnic makeup?
Oh,
There you go.
that's like
That's-
saying, "Hey, did you
like-
take a 23andMe?"
That's
Exactly.
that is
But
that.
You can ask that to anyone. That's
that-
not like
Yeah.
Asian specific.
Oh.
So mine, if we're in trade notes, mine is what flavor are you, baby? This always what flavor are you, baby?
I don't think.
And
That
and
might
obviously
not
I've
work
built
in every situation.
It won't work
Just
in every
letting you know
situation.
I don't think I
preemptively.
can.
I'm gonna be like,
Ask
you're
that.
not. I'm gonna be like, you're not just white. What flavor are you, baby? And like that's how I am because I'm like, hey, we're just talking about it.
Corey, Josh, and I are like white bread.
No, you're not just white. That's just denaturalization of bullshit.
Sorry, Josh and I have our hands over our mouths. We don't-
It's like,
I've got
Josh.
okay.
and
So
Josh
what
is-
flavor am I? I've got a little bit of Guinness. There's some Jameson
Chipotle.
mixed in.
Okay, so Irish.
There's Irish.
Oh, we just go by yeah.
Also-
Describe yourself in alcohol.
Also,
Because I
how would
say the world is a buffet. And
I've got
if you're not
Portuguese,
taking part of
so,
it, you are.
Wait,
you are a
no,
bit of
this
port.
is that's the hack. You just asked to describe what alcohol you're made up of, and that's not offensive. That's
Wow.
it.
I'm bomb.
Haneri came in with like the
No.
good, politically correct one, and Tom is like,
No.
if you were a food, what would you taste like?
I would say that's okay. Look, but also cultures connect through food, and also
Yeah,
as
that's true.
humans, like someone may not like tomatoes, someone may not like mushrooms, but we all like food at some different levels. Like, so it's like what's your cuisine, baby? You know what I mean? Like, and like I'm a lot of Southeast Asian.
You just Joey Tribbiani'd it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's 100% what he did.
How
yeah.
you doing the ethnic makeup?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say it because I'm 31 flavors of Asian.
We
you know,
like,
but like,
pizza.
but no,
Wow.
that's how I've gone. But I'll take yours. What is your ethnic makeup? I think that's a good one, especially if you don't know the person that
Yeah.
well.
Fair. That's fair.
But I try to stay away from that
Trying to
question.
say like you look exotic.
Oh,
Oof.
Instead of,
That's a
like,
good
are
word.
You Chinese?
yeah.
Big
Oh.
oof.
I just love the response of like, I'm tired. They're like, oh, I love pad thai. I'm like, that has nothing to do with me, but that's cool. I shout out to you, homie.
That's
you know
not what I
Like,
said.
I'm white. It's like I love macaroni and cheese, man. That's what's up. Shout out, homie.
Casseroles.
Casseroles.
Tater tot casserole.
Oh man, I really want tater tots. No one does them here.
That's a crime.
They're super easy to make. if
I'm
you have
so
potatoes.
sorry.
I know that.
You can do it
From
I believe in
frozen
you.
Or from
Scratch.
from scratch. You just need like a potato, a cheese grater, and like that's it.
And patience.
Yeah, and potatoes are really affordable, at least in the States. I don't know if they're affordable in other places. But.
Well, in Singapore, we're a little island. We don't have any natural resources except for people, and we just keep getting more people. I don't understand why.
Oh.
Maybe stop being a beautiful place and you won't get any people.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It
Good
is
point.
really
Solid.
beautiful.
Maybe
Solid.
pump
Solid.
brakes.
Cool. Tight. So, going back to the questions real quick, I want to go back to music. So, as a songwriter, are you a music first, or lyrics first kind of writer?
I'm like a feelings first. So like,
Mm.
how do we feel? Do we feel like, we want to?
I hate fuckboys.
So you're like
Yeah,
the
sometimes
concept of the
feelings.
song, like what it's about.
Yeah. Sometimes I bring in a concept first. Sometimes it's just like going through voice notes and seeing what clicks. If it's a collaboration, then listening to a track or going through samples and seeing what feels good.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of collaborations start with like hour-long talks, and the best hooks come from conversation.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
we don't talk anymore. I can only think of Charlie Puth's songs right now. I don't know.
It's
Shout out to
No,
Northridge.
The
that's a-
never-ending story. I mean, wouldn't you say that?
That's what Chuck Palahniuk says. The writer for Fight Club is saying, like, if you have a good story, then you bring it to people and you talk about it, and if they're able to add on to it because they resonate with it, then you got some good.
It's my favorite
and
author.
I've also, there you go. I also recently was talking to another friend about collaborating and this just visual idea of like the sphere of an emotion, right? Like, because we don't have all the names for all our feelings,
Mhm.
thankfully. Chinese people would just be like, oh my God, what do we do?
That's just called angry.
Yeah. Anger, one word. It's like 5 different types of Chinese characters to, describe
Oh
it.
my goodness.
But just like this one thing that's a feeling that's that can denote like different situations, but can create the same feeling. And I think when you're writing with other people, they look at it from a different point of view, and I'll look at it from a different point of view. And if we can write that sphere in as much detail with as much
Genuinity.
general, but also specific,
Oh.
then we can, help other people experience that emotion while we're writing it and when we perform it.
Mhm.
So that's like a beautiful idea of collaboration.
It's specific to you, but it could be general and almost allegorical, where people can take their own interpretations.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a pretty amazing phenomenon that songwriters experience, where you can write something so specific to yourself, and yet other people are like, I had this experience, then that song reminded me, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know anyone else did that. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to do 1 or 2 more questions before we jump into the later half of the show. But one question is, and this is something that I'm really big on. I tend to be like the friendly, grumpy person amongst my friends, and I always tell people that they should try to experience more things. And since you've been around the world in facets that people again aren't maybe not familiar with, you've probably also have listened to musicians like American audiences have not heard of. So if there is one or few, you could name the top 5 or however you want to go, but musicians that American audiences would not have heard of that you know of that would open their avenues to that. Well, who would they be?
Would they be people that I had to see live or just people that I've heard? So there is a Japanese artist called Yui, and she's an acoustic artist. She just mainly sings and plays guitar. She's probably one of my favorite artists. A lot of my inspiration come from Japanese music. A beautiful thing about Japanese music is that they never repeat a chorus. Like they have the same melody, but they have just all different lyrics. Like an incredible journey that they take you on. And it might have started with watching anime and, the opening songs and the end songs. So my sister and we big anime fans. So we would sing them in the car and look at the lyrics and the meaning and figure out what they meant and just be baffled by, I'm really interested in the science of songwriting as well. So looking at different formats and how it affects people and why it affects people that way. The Japanese format is so interesting because back in the day, like the old songs a lot of them are very Bob Dylan, verse refrain, verse, refrain. It's all,
Yeah.
but it's all a story. This beautiful story that's being like sung out and played out.
Expressed.
Thought. But so Yui is an artist that I love. Another one is this Japanese duo called Do As Infinity.
Oh,
And
I know.
you know?
Inuyasha ending scenes. I know them.
Yes, yeah. I think that's how I found them too. But they just put some new music out, so they're like going. You know, like they've been.
They're still killing it.
They're still killing it. Actually, I can't say that for sure because I haven't heard the new stuff. But
Fair enough.
Spotify told me that they have.
They're still doing it.
They're doing As to Infinity.
I don't know if they do it with each other, but they're still making music for sure.
Very good.
Corey
Very
just went,
good.
got bested.
I see my phrasing here.
Just in case it was on purpose, you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I lived in Australia for a while, so I went back to Australia before I moved to the States. And there are a bunch of really incredible Australian artists. It actually blows my mind how much, there are a lot of Australian artists that make it big in the States, but for all intents and purposes, a lot of the Australian music industry stays within Australia, which is so strange. I mean, they are big enough and I think rich enough and have a big enough population to support their industry. But yeah, and I almost gave up music when I stayed there because I was like, man,
Oh,
they're
shit.
so good.
Oh.
So yeah,
Been there.
I used to play. Yeah, I think we all have. Like, someone's always going to be better than you. Which
Oh, yeah.
is reality. Yeah,
I try not to though. I try to be the best.
we got to learn. Like, if you are the best, there's nothing left to learn. How sad would that be?
Well,
Very true.
how to be better than the best. How to be better than who I was yesterday.
There's Tom with that diamond on the inside.
Mhm.
I think you want to always be innovative, but whether we like it or not, there's always going to be someone better.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Hopefully I'll like pass on before that time happens. And I was like, I just don't want to see it happen. I don't want to see the fall from grace.
You can't be the best until you're like at the end, Then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I've seen it all, and because you want to better yourself.
Yeah, exactly. All the time.
So when I was in Australia, I used to waitress at this cafe and then play open mics at this bar called Spleen, and I'll never forget it because I have no idea why it's called Spleen.
Fair.
But I would play there, and the guy that ran it, his name is Tim. Oh, I had it while we were talking, but he
Tim.
created this genre called Goblin Core.
Oh my God.
That sounds like Caitlin's
Dope.
stuff right there.
He's incredible. So I gotta find his name for you, but
Tim Goblin Core at Spleen.
yeah.
Wow.
.com.
I had so many interesting nights at Spleen. I'm just like an adventurer at heart. So like, I'm really glad that I left home when I did. I missed my family a lot, but I'm back now in my 30s. So
I feel like if you
hey.
go to a place called Spleen, you'd have nothing but adventures.
Oh, yes.
Hey man, let's check out
was-
Spleen.
It was purely adventure. It was, and I could only go over at 11 when I finished my shift. So it was just all, midnight story.
But that's living life. That's living life, and that's how you're able to write good art. Because you experience things and you go through walks of life that people
Different perspectives.
hear about. So.
Yeah. I had no fear at the time because nothing too bad had happened to me yet,
Mhm.
a bit late for that, but
Oops.
but yeah, so I would walk home. Oh, it's killing me that I can't think of his name.
Tim
I'm gonna
McMillan?
find it. I'm sorry. Yes.
Tim
Whoa.
Wow, you're fast.
The internet.
Power of the Google.
Yeah. Goblin Core. So he would like shred on his guitar and slap it. He even like played tennis with it in the middle of a show once.
Hell yeah.
It's intense. Yeah, he was amazing. I thought he was just not human.
I mean, he's a goblin.
Yeah.
I've watched
One
some.
last.
I-
Go ahead.
I was
Josh.
just gonna. I've watched some. I'm a singer-songwriter as well, or have that past. And sometimes I play my guitar, and I'll watch other people play guitar that are just unnaturally good. Like I've seen somebody go, "Oh, I've never played a guitar," and they just pick it up, and because they know other instruments, they know how
They're
to play
lying.
it.
There's
And
a
you're like,
language.
I'm done. It took me my whole time through college to get here. And you
You're
just
like-
went. And it-
But what you don't, here's the thing though, you don't know that it took them their whole life to get to that point playing
Yeah.
those other instruments.
That's
yeah,
true.
it's like
So you, have
imagine
to apply the
Yeah.
time that they took too.
I was like,
Yeah.
imagine you trying to learn Japanese, and then someone's learned like Chinese and Thai and Vietnamese and Korean, and they're like, "Oh, I understand. This is that kind of language," and they just pick it up, and it's like,
And you're like, well,
but also
cool.
Josh, be better, no.
My mom
not wrong.
says if you're not good at it, like, and you really want it, then maybe it's just not meant for you, and you do the other thing because there is going to be something that you're incredibly good at. You just have to find it, and then love it.
Naps.
Yeah, there's quite a few
Naps.
things I'm
It's
good
mine.
at, but I hate, and so like it's like, all right,
Yeah.
which is the one that I'm gonna like? One last question before we talk about Howls. You've talked about surviving cancer, and also going in theme of talking about things that are uncomfortable, but it's important, and it's like creating the space in order for us to normalize having these conversations. How has you volunteered with Singapore Cancer Society? How has you being so open with your journey created conversations with your audience?
I think at a time, for a time rather, it was all anyone wanted to talk to me about, and I was like bald for a year, so I couldn't blame them. It's like really obvious. When I was in Singapore, I couldn't help it because I had put out a single that was about overcoming obstacles. That's the song that Wong Fu used in their short, and it was. I'm lucky because my mom had survived cancer 10 years before I had it. So I would volunteer with her a lot when we would give out stickers to, raise money for the Breast Cancer Society or other cancer societies. She counsels cancer survivors or people that are battling cancer. And so she was really a role model for me going through it and past it. It made me not shy at all to talk about the entire process. If anything, I wanted to make myself available to anyone that wanted to ask me anything about it. And putting that song out and being very public about that journey actually, led to really meaningful conversations that I had with people that I wanted to have, because I think prior to that, it was just, I was like a pop singer and, whatever. But from then I had people talking to me about their parents having cancer or them going through some kind of illness. And I felt like I was able to do my job to make music about that and to talk to them about what it was they needed someone to talk to about. And, aside from all the other creepy or mean things that people say to me, like, this is what it's about. Being able to create that safe community or give someone a safe platform to just spill their guts and feel okay about it. So that was really nice. And it made me feel like I'm doing the thing that I'm meant to do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, if anything, it adds like more weight to the purpose of creating art and expressing, being able to find a route where people can express themselves, because now that it just has like another layer, another dimension.
It evolved,
side to it.
essentially.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm smiling at Kat because she just did that for me with you guys.
Oh, Cat is. I was like, who's Cat? I'm like, oh, Caitlyn.
Yeah.
if you're
We had a Caitlyn at the studio, so we had to call her Kat.
I like know that you're from the music industry if you call me Kat.
I'm going to mess with that now.
I was gonna say, it's like,
Great,
and then
great.
Boobs McBallrog. I see. Okay.
Boobs
All these-
McBallrog is the internet. Caitlyn is acting.
What is
and
your
Kat
handle
is
makeup?
music.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
All the different layers.
What is
Wow.
your creative makeup there?
Okay, all right.
But now we'll switch to Howl's Moving Castle. So you kind of like this movie, right?
Oh, it's my favorite movie of all time. It's my top 5.
Top
They
5.
like
There you
juggle
go.
around.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you a little bit. When was your first time watching it? Was it dub? Was it sub? Tell us a story.
I think in Asia we only watch sub anime. Yeah, I think that's all we get when it was on free to air TV. So that's how I generally prefer it. And also I love Japanese. So if that wasn't already obvious.
It was kind of there.
But I love listening to them talk in Japanese. I think it's so cute. And I started watching anime with Rurouni Kenshin, and
You just make
Kenshin's
Corey's
voice
day.
is drastically different if you watch it
Yes.
dubbed.
Yes.
And so
Very.
you're like, oh, Kenshin's a man. Oh, wait. If you hear, then you hear it subbed and you're like, wait, is he?
But is it? Yeah. Yeah.
He's
His
kind of
voice is
beautiful.
It's bizarre. Yeah. It's a
It
cultural
just-
divide. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it is voiced by a woman, if
Yeah.
I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
but the idea of him being like the subtext of the choice of voice is
Mhm.
just like, he is this gentle slayer, you know?
Mhm.
But anyway, I'm
We could do a whole nother episode about that. Come back for that one. Please,
Yeah.
please come back for that
Corey
one.
wants to
I'm
come-
dying.
Corey wants to talk
That's
about
what
it.
I was looking for. It's 3 a.m., guys. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
No, you're all good. But so, Howl's
but
Moving
I-
Castle?
Yeah. I think I was, I don't know, like early teens when I first watched it. Maybe mid-teens. I don't know, 16, 17.
Okay.
Let's put it that.
And-
I possibly watched it before, but I didn't fall in love with Ghibli till I was like 17.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I was going to say, was it love at first sight, or was it like, oh, I'm now not dumb and I understand the beauty of this?
Tom doesn't like kids. Just throw that out there.
Oh no,
So,
I talk from my own experience of like I was really dumb when I watched a lot of things. I just never appreciated it. Then I was like, oh, you're fucking stupid. Come on,
You
man.
had,
And
you
then
had
I'm
more
like,
life experience,
there was a
so
message.
I was like,
the
oh
whole
my
time.
God.
your
Like,
perspective shifted because you had more life happen.
well, it's more like
And the hair
I
change.
think it might have been like, oh, I try to make a movie. This is really hard.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of shit for no reason. And also you start like loving the mastery and the craftsmanship and also the messaging and also like the auteur aspect of it. So anyway.
Mhm.
I minored in Asian cinema for my first degree. So I would go to the library a lot and just like sit in one of those like they had little cubbies where you can put the DVD in. And
Yep.
so I spent so much time in that library watching like old Asian
I was
films.
gonna say, how much Kurosawa did you watch?
Oh, so much.
All of it.
But I fell in love with Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Murakami. Wait, that's not.
No.
Yeah, so I fell in love with him, and my thesis was just like on him and the films that he makes. But I bought like I bought a DVD set of all the Ghibli films. But Howl's was the first and will always be my first Ghibli love in animation movies.
Oh yeah.
So we go customarily around the digital room. What's everyone else's initial reactions and first impressions of Howl's Moving Castle?
This is actually my first time watching it for this.
Oh.
And he did that dub life, right?
Yeah.
Dub
Yeah.
life.
I did Dub Life the first time, and then as I was taking notes and stuff like that, I put it on through subs just to get a vibe.
Feel.
But this is my first time watching it through, and it was one of those things that like I kept putting it off because it was so hyped in my mind, and I was scared. I was like, I'll get to it eventually, I promise, because I love Spirited Away, and I love Totoro, and all these things. So I put it on, and I could not keep my eyes off the screen, as most Ghibli films do. I thought this was a fantastic story. It's rising to it rose to the top of my films as far as Ghibli films go, for sure. It's a contender for first place. I thought it was so creative, and without getting too far into it, because we'll get into it through the episode, the idea of the castle fascinated me.
Oh, yeah.
Like beyond belief. I could not stop thinking about it. So
Also-
I'll leave it there for now, and we'll go into it. But I loved it.
Also for our listeners, spoilers, baby.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Spoilers.
they're everywhere. They're gonna be
100%.
Also, this is
everywhere.
really not that new, and it's on HBO Max.
It's been
up
around
your-
for a minute.
Up your life. It's Caitlin, what about you? What's your initial reactions?
My initial reactions to watching this was it was not. I didn't connect with it at first. I don't remember feeling really emotionally attached to this movie until I watched it with my sister right before she was about to move to Tokyo officially, and I was about to move to California officially. And sorry, Bethany, I'm sharing a personal story, but like I
Shout
remember we like watched that movie and then we like were having a very like sister moment of like going to sleep and holding hands and like being like,
Precious.
life is happening right now. We love each other. And like, so ever since then, I've like watched that with a much different emotional context.
Mm-hmm.
And like now it's shifted from like just being a sentimental thing to being like a relationships, people growing thing. So it's my view on the movie has changed over the years, but I just come to love it more as time goes on.
And then you woke up your old Ajima.
Yeah, one day I'm gonna be old Sophie.
Getting old is hard.
Tom?
It is.
Josh?
I said Tom?
Oh, I didn't hear it. Didn't count.
So for me, same way. Yeah. I think the first time I watched it, I was like, whatever. And the second time I watched it, it was because of a girl. She's like, oh my God, I love this. And I was like, yeah, I like you. I'm gonna try to watch this movie. And then
Wow.
Though.
I mean, no, I watched it on my own, so I could be like, all right, next time I talk to her, I'm gonna be like, yo, I watched this
You did
movie,
the
yo.
homework.
You know, I try. Anyway, so, and then I will say this, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. In terms of the pantheon of directors, and then even the smaller fraction of auteurs, you know, Wes Anderson is one person that his style will never be like unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
And Miyazaki plays into that field in a way where it's like knowing when the film came out is very important.
Right.
And knowing that this was after Spirited Away, and then knowing at what time the world and the war on terrorism was going on, and then what that context was. So when I watched it this time, knowing all that information in preparation for the episode, I was like, this
Getting
I
those-
understand.
It all makes sense now.
Neurons just going off in your brain. Like,
But I mean, there was always that like, oh, it's Christian Bale. I gotta watch Batman in anime. You know, like, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this. But then like, and so watching, I remember I was like, isn't it kind of creepy? Isn't there some scary things in there? And I was like, okay, cool, da da da. And then I was watching this, and I was like, oh. And so that's why I'll say like, there are great directors, but there are a few that are like phenomenal because they want their films to be about something.
Mhm.
And this one, even though like quote unquote it got like more critical divisiveness because it was about something, I think it's one of the more important films in the last 20 years because it touches on subjects and it's a little allegorical where you can kind of fit it into any time frame, so it loses specificity, but also that means it has a timeliness to it for all ages. Because it's not just for a kid, it's not just for the adult. You can enjoy it for both, and you just need good story elements to do that. So I enjoy it. It's not in my top. I have a number one Ghibli film, so I'm like that will never go away. But yeah, it's a top one. I mean, I think that's always within the conversation of like the Ghibli films. So, Josh.
Nice. This actually was my first Ghibli film that I ever saw. Back in so it came out in 2004. I remember, I believe I was working at a video store at the time, and when I saw it, like it was one of those I was like, oh, I'm gonna see this because there was a lot of hype even then, and I saw it. It was again my first Ghibli film, and I think it is my favorite Ghibli film. I've always really, really enjoyed it. It was the last time I had seen it was then, so seeing it again this time, it was like, oh, I remember why I like this so much. There was just so many fascinating aspects of the story, the design of it, the castle, like you said, Corey. It is fascinating. It's such a cool concept. And then, I mean, it's just the colors of it, the environments, the whole.
I want that door, man.
I know.
I really want that door.
That would be so cool.
Like it's aesthetically or fantastically?
Fantastically. Like I want to just turn a knob and be like, all right, I'm in Denmark. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
A show with a kid with that power, like a door.
I would want that beard and hat.
It's pretty dope. Just
The cloak.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, that's the cool thing what they did with magic, but also like the film is just really done well, where they melange like magic is beautiful and wonderful, and flying is a grace. Where the man-made industrial version of those similar feats are this drab and decrepit versions of that, which draws a really wonderful contrast. And I think Hayao Miyazaki does that really well, just to create wonderful backgrounds and sets, to really give you the vibe of like if you
a
go
lived air where
well,
you are.
Well, it also lived in, but also like with Totoro, where it's like you go out to the countryside. It's beautiful, and then if you go into the city side, he can make a city look beautiful, or he can make a city look bad. Like,
but it's also the colors. It was just the city. It reminded me of I went to Italy like 3 years ago, and there is a little island, and you've seen it in movies, and like if you search Italy, oftentimes you'll find this. It's this little town on an island that is like every house is a different color. It's very colorful. I think it's Baruna. It starts with a B, but it's a very beautiful town. And I'll find it and all, but it's just even the roofs are different colors, and and of course it's Italy, so it's very close to Venice, so there's lots of water. But the town was so bright, so colorful. It was just super, super cool. Super cool.
So Haneri, now we're talking about our favorite parts, but I do want to know why this is one of your favorites. What is it about this that makes it like?
I think there are so many things that I love about this movie. I think the idea of the fantastical has always baffled me and intrigued me. So watching it within such a normal setting is something that I love reading in books, but I've never seen in animation. Not really anyway, unless Rurouni Kenshin is like really. Not.
There's a guy who's like burned on fire who's still fighting, and his sword catches on fire too.
I know, but it's not fantastical. Like you're flying and you're enjoying it, or someone's like.
It's a historical piece in a sense.
This is
exactly.
I never seen no one with red long hair jump 15 feet in the air. I'm just
true.
It happens in Japan. There are guys with really long red hair.
That sounds gangster.
But yeah, not in the fantastical sense of like a scarecrow that comes to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, or exactly. Wizard of Oz. It's different. Like I just hadn't seen an animation put together a world that I had maybe thought of in my dreams, and so seeing that, and then how flamboyant Howl is and not ashamed of it. This idea of beauty, and I'm a girl. I grew up insecure, and the idea and how they address it. Sophie refuses to see it, and Howl constantly craves it. How he falls in love with the Witch of the Waste, who obviously is not attractive. Like, so what did he see in that? Was it the power? Is that beauty? Like, there's so many questions to be asked. And the best line is like, when he finally gets, I'm just spoiling all of it.
No, that's fine. We're in spoiler territory at this point.
Spoiler country at this point.
Spoiler away.
My favorite character is Calcifer, because he's like the heart of it. Literally.
Sounds all right.
And when he gives Howl back the thing that he's been without, which allows him to be so brutal about all of the things he sees and feels, he can barely get up. And it's like, oh, you finally understand that this is heart is a heavy burden. And that's like my favorite line in the whole film, because it is. And emotions are hard. And when it's hard and you have to deal with them, even if you have magic, it's hard.
Doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, but there's that flip side of the coin, is that we would rather have that than not feel at all, because it's a gift.
Yeah. But it's that like whole, like, no matter how strong you are, if you fall on the ground, doesn't make the ground any softer.
I also love how precious they treat like kind of the heart and Calcifer. Like there's that scene where Sophie is taking the heart from the witch, and she's instead of being forceful about it, she's being very gentle about it and
Understanding.
and understanding. And that's how, instead of it's that cliche of like, if you love something, let it go, and like the witch has to let it go, and she's being very gentle of like, we need to take this now, and so it's
been unrealistic though if there wasn't a bit of a
Oh yeah, I mean that's where it comes a little like fairy tale wise, where like, I mean, it is a little beautiful just to teach children that kind of lesson of like love thy enemy, right? And it's kind of like understand where they're coming from, and even though at the end of the day, like all the bad things happen is because of the Witch of the Waste, and it's like, you know, Sophie.
That's a Miyazaki trait though, because
Yeah.
in Spirited Away, you know, she takes the heads and the baby.
Oh,
And
No
it's
Face
like
and
a thing where
Yeah,
no, not No Face, but also No Face.
the witch swaps them around and does the magic
Yes.
on them. Yeah, with the baby makes them one of the heads, and with the rat. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing where it's like, even though as vile and disgusting, and it's all because of the witch's greed. If it's easy to vilify and demonize them, but then to understand them and see like this person that's, you know, the quote unquote causing antagonistic forces to happen is a person too, and we just need to be able to identify it. It's like, you know, I forget what it's like, Shakespearean self-awareness, where characters don't know they're in a story, but then once you're able to identify like this is who you are in this story, then it's like, then you can then empathize and then hopefully, you know, cure it with love in a way. But it's interesting. It was very interesting. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, because it's not like, because the entire time like there's this war and Howl is being ravaged by it, and like there's this like ticking time bomb feel of like, if he transforms again, like this is what's going to happen. And the end of the film, the climax and the resolution isn't this giant battle between nations. It's, you know, like an understanding of like the heart and ideologies. So, favorite parts? Anyone else?
the origin story of Howl. It was like when they went into the door and she got to see the past, and
Star.
it was just, it was when I say the colors, like that sequence, the colors, they were so bright. Like for an animation, it was just like, it was almost fluorescent and like neon is the word that I'm looking for, where it's just like so bright and it just popped so much in those like little like stars or whatever. I don't remember.
The
They were
falling
like
stars.
dancing.
The
Yeah,
star
falling
people?
Stars. Yeah, star people. It's like one of my favorite colors of like blue and green, kind of like a turquoisey-ish color. And just like it was super, super cool looking. It's a fascinating scene to watch over and over again, because you're just like, there isn't a lot of dialogue to it either. It's just like you're watching this happen. And when it goes into his chest, it's just so bright, and then it just
and then comes out.
I have a bunch. I mean,
Yeah,
The
like
thing
the whole
about-
movie? Question mark.
The thing about Miyazaki is he makes food look.
I was
Oh,
gonna say,
the
we have to
breakfast
shout out the food porn.
scene.
The
Best.
food porn is stupid.
When Hal's making the breakfast and the bacon and the eggs, and
oh,
I literally had to pause it and go make food because it made it look.
The way he cuts the bread too.
Yes, it's all so good. And like every film, like especially like in Spirited Away, when the parents are eating all that delicious food that I do not blame them for eating, because I would 100% be like, it's kind of worth it. So that food, that scene, like stuck with me, and I have not been able to recreate that meal yet, but I'm gonna try.
I think binging with
also-
Babish did it.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
hold
did he?
on.
Was
Time
he
out.
binging with Babish?
No. Time out. Binging with Babish, try to do it. Because I'll tell you right
Okay.
now, that the quality of bacon that's in Howl's versus the bacon that Babish used, not the same.
No, not the
No.
same.
This
at all.
ain't it, fam. This ain't it.
That's not the same.
I loved the
Still love you though.
the scene where she had cleaned his bathroom and he comes out with the red hair and he's just so upset about how he's not
mad.
beautiful anymore.
His hair,
I thought that was
because you
I
experienced
thought that was
that, right?
hilarious. I think I'm supposed to laugh at that, but I did. I thought that was a fantastic scene, and just you get that idea of who he thinks he is, where his worth is within how he looks rather than how he
Who he
acts, which he
is.
learns throughout the film. That scene stuck with me.
Well,
Just, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the beautiful thing, and like this is like a very simple but very effective usage of writing, where characters look one way at the beginning of the film and they look completely different at the end of the film, and it conveys change and growth. And so you think about it's like, oh, yeah, of course they're different, but then you realize like the subtext behind it, and you're like, oh well, shit, why didn't I think about that? And it's very intelligent because like at first he's like flamboyant with his like cape and he's got the blonde hair. At the very end, he's just like in a regular like I call it the popper shirt and then like
Oh yeah.
the black hair. And then she's just like shy and afraid and she's young looking. But then at the very end, her like quote unquote ultimate self is shorter silver hair because she's accepted who she is.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Her also her age changing throughout the film.
Oh, it fluctuating back and
love.
forth.
Yeah, well, because like before I did like a deep dive into the symbology of the film and all that kind of stuff, for me it was like such a reflection of how she felt in those moments.
Yeah.
That I loved that concept. That it didn't necessarily reflect. The one that stuck out to me is when she's talking to the
Solomon.
Solomon.
The
The witch.
The-
wizard.
Yeah,
wizard
yeah,
at the
yeah.
King's
teacher
Palace.
witch.
And she just sees that bit of who she truly is and how she feels about Howl. That was such a like whiplash moment that I had to rewind it and watch it a couple times. But I love playing with that idea of getting the glimpse of how she's truly feeling or how she feels in that moment depicted by her age and how we see her in that second. And I thought that was just a really beautiful usage of imagery.
Man,
Caitlin, yeah.
for me, the progression of the castle, because when Sophie comes in, it's a pigsty. And like, I'm always going to love Miyazaki cleaning montage things. Like, I'm always going to love it. I'm always
Shout
going to
out to Spirited
love...
Away.
Because a broom is like the most powerful weapon, and you could just push like tons of things for no. I'm like that's not physically possible.
I mean,
But it's great. It's wonderful.
well, like, it's more of like the progression of like, it's mirroring Howl and Sophie's like awareness of themselves too, because like Howl is completely oblivious. Like he doesn't care about anything. He doesn't think about anything. Sophie is the one who comes in and is like, she doesn't want to look internally, so she's going to use all of herself to clean his stuff.
Deflection.
And that's the helper thing, where like you come in and you want to help everybody. You want to help everybody. So she's like I'm an old lady, don't worry about me. I'm going to worry about you. So then she cleans the whole apartment, and then she's like helping Calcifer and like brightening his day by giving him logs, and like, slowly but surely Howl is like becoming more aware of her and like how he feels about her and like the effects of like dyeing his hair and everything. Like they basically like are forced to start intersecting more and more, and then like there's really nothing more for Sophie to do. And then when Howl changes the house to accommodate more for her, she worries.
Yeah.
So like he makes the house
She
bigger.
spent like a week cleaning the house, and then a month later he like changes the whole thing.
Right.
oh my
Could've
god, I just
done
thought
that.
about that. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
So you could have cleaned it from the
You
start.
could have
is what
cleaned
you're
it
telling me.
magically like this. But he just didn't have that kind of an awareness or care. And
Right.
she's the one who helped him acquire that. But even then, like, through this whole movie is basically like two people with all of their baggage coming in, intersecting, and like thankfully their baggage like works itself out with each other and helps them discover each other through helping each other. Like that's the ideal kind of situation for what a relationship could be, of like, I'm coming in with my baggage, you're coming in with your baggage, we're coming together and dealing with it on our own, but also wanting to help each other. Like, and
In a non-toxic way.
in a non-toxic way.
Yeah.
And The Witch of the Waste is like that perfect example of like, that was how I used to handle things and it didn't really go well. And that's still kind of following me around a little bit.
I will say, shout out to the Witch of the Waste for finding out that bug though. That was like, damn, what a gangster. You know what I mean? She just knew. She's like, I
She
played this
knew.
game.
The person to kill him.
But also, I'm wondering if that bug was planted
By her.
by her to, well, like Solomon knew that she was going to smoke the cigar and also probably feed the bug to Calcifer. Because then he couldn't protect the house during the bombing, so that Howl would be motivated to have to do something about it and stay in one place.
And then fight for one specific kingdom.
Yes. There's so many things, but and also like I know Haneri, you're reading the book right now. I just actually read the Howl's Moving Castle that this movie was based off of. It's very different. Very
I mean,
different.
Similar.
It's
like
similar.
Yeah.
The
main
feeling.
points are there, but they made it like Japanese.
Yes, yeah. It was very like there's like love, and you find out more about the Black Door, and like there's a lot of subtle nods to everything. But it's so different, and it's much darker. The characters in Miyazaki's film are much more noble.
I was gonna say British literature, especially at that time, is very like all the fairy tales, the real fairy tales, like Cinderella's stepsisters cut off half their feet to fit into the slipper.
Yes.
And somehow the prince doesn't notice it till the slipper fills with blood. And like, so it's definitely
Very casually too.
yeah, very casual. Like all the grim fairy tales are just that. They're very grim.
I wouldn't say the book is that dark. It's
Right.
It's
No,
just
I'm just saying
darker than this one.
It's very British. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the bittersweet story of Turnip Head, because what breaks the curse is true love's kiss, meaning that he was in love with Sophie. But because he's such a good guy, he's like, you know what? It's cool. I'm going to go into this war. Thanks for changing me back.
Yeah, they brush that off, and it's just like heartbreaking.
It is. When I heard it, I was like, oh no.
Because
When I
the
watched
Witch
it
of the
this
Waste
time,
is
I was
trying to
like-
get at that.
His poor heart.
Which the waste was trying to
She's
get
trying to
in.
get. She's like, oh, I'm okay to be a rebound. What's up?
See you
Yeah,
around,
yeah.
big boy.
Oh, you a prince?
But I just, his whole, every time he's on screen, Turnip Head, I
Use a G.
was filled with joy. Like,
Yeah.
I know we'll get into it later, but I think he might be my favorite character in that.
If they were going to do a live action, I don't see anyone else playing him other than Alan Tudyk.
I do,
Oh my God.
I do want you to know, this is mild spoiler, but not too much spoiler. In the book, Turnip Head is a like Freddy Krueger. Like
yeah.
he's horrifying.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. He's not
cute.
fun and whimsical.
So
in the
Alan
book.
Tudyk.
yeah.
But no, I will say one thing. Also, shout out to Sophie, because you know what? When she gets turned into an old lady, that's the first thing I would have done. I'm like, all right, my parents can't find out. I gotta sneak out. I gotta figure this out by myself. Because it's like I so got like transported back as a child of like when you messed up or something bad happened. It's like the worst thing that can happen is your parents worried about you.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when
you're
they
like,
call you and you go, first off, I'm okay. And then they're like,
I just want to say, Mom, I love you. Thank you for everything. And now listen, this is what's going on.
I got into a car accident.
It's really bad.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
But it's okay.
that's the important part, right?
Right?
Do we want to do favorite characters now?
Yeah.
Haneri gave one.
Yeah.
Calcifer.
Calcifer, yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say before I forget that the whole house thing, when he like rebuilds the house, and I was like, oh, why did she clean the whole house then? And then I realized that the only reason that he's put up with Sophie is because she's told him as a kid to wait for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that very short time travel just like changes the
Whole movie.
thing.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that Hal says to Sophie before he even knows her is, I've been looking everywhere for you.
Yes.
And I mean, have you heard of I forget I think it's called Jinn particles. It's a science term. Jinn particles. So I forget,
Like the genie, like Jen.
it's JIN, I think.
Okay.
So I think the example is used. So let's say like Caitlyn, you and I are like in love, right? And I give you a watch. I'm like, this is my favorite watch. And then I die. And then you're like, oh my God, I miss Tom so much. And then you make a time machine and then you go back and then you see like young me. And then you give me the watch. So where did the watch come from? And so like this is like what happened first? is like was she always in love with Howl, or was Howl always waiting for her?
Right.
And because like no matter what, like she's always
causal
going back
loop.
in time. It's a Jin particle. So that item now is
It's the
not part of
Harry
time and
Potter
space.
Patronus thing.
Patronus.
Oh
thing?
yeah.
When
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like who's
No spoilers for that.
We already did an episode on it.
we already did it.
I know.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's like, oh, what? Who? What?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So no, but Haneri. So you have Calcifer. Who's your second character? Second favorite character?
Probably Sophie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So typical.
She's a
so good.
warrior.
She's a go-getter.
Like getting turned that old so quick and like pretty much dealing with it in a matter of minutes and being like, okay, this is life now. I'm gonna go and
I'm gonna
like,
eat some bread and cheese and go on a hike.
yeah, like pushing
That's kind
herself.
of how I feel with my life too.
Yeah.
I'm not as strong, but it's more of just like, all right, how do we deal with this? What do
Right.
we do?
I thought you were
Like
gonna
the
be
race-
like, I get bread and cheese and go on a hike.
the race up the stairs, one of my favorite scenes by far. Just giving the witch shit the entire time that she too is struggling, but like still giving me like, you're never gonna make it. You're never gonna make it if you go that fast. Like you gotta try harder than that. I respect that. I respect Sophie.
I
for
mean,
that.
also the fact that the Scarecrow Pumpkin Turnip Head man fell in love with
Whiplash.
her. Fell in love with her, in her older state because of
Mhm.
who she was, and was just like, I'm going to figure this out. And it's like, if you want, make me a stick or make me a walking stick. And then he finds one, and then it's like, all right, peace out. And it's just like,
I also think that the Scarecrow was under magic where he could see who Sophie was.
because people see magic.
that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why he was like, oh, it goes beyond this, and I
Mhm.
can look beyond this.
True.
Mm.
True that.
Yeah, Turnip Head is probably my first favorite character. Just the subtext of his entire story is so bittersweet. In the fact that he just takes it and is like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna end the war. Good guy.
Second favorite?
I think I have to go with Sophie as well. I can't. Her resilience and no matter what happened to her, just being able to be like, I'm going to take the punches and keep going. And I know I can do this. And if I'm old forever, that so be it. I'm still going to help these people and try to make Howl's life better and Calcifer's life. But like, it's I
She makes
wish,
light of everything.
yeah, I wish I had that. I need to work on, be more Sophie. That's what I learned.
Josh?
Is there an echo in here? I'm gonna say Sophie is my number one for all the reasons that have been. I also love that she was so strong, but she was also like that scene that I was talking about with the witch in terms of taking back the heart, of just being so gentle and kind of intuitive in that sense. And I really liked Markle. I just thought he was, every time he was on scene, like at first he seemed so there was such a wall, and then he just became such a friend of like
He's like, don't clean my room next.
yeah.
Save it for last.
the
But then
beard
he
and the
hugs her
cloak
and he's
thing.
like, "Never leave,
Yeah.
Sophie, you can't leave us.
Yeah, it's a
You're not
family.
leaving, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my heart.
But
This
also
movie.
how accustomed he got to the filth at the garbage. Like, you got enough room over there? I'm just like, oh God. It's like, which fork do you want?
They're all nasty.
Caitlin?
Sophie's the obvious choice for me. I feel like I relate a lot to a lot of the things she deals with in a different way, obviously. I'm
don't
not
make hats?
magicked to be 90 years old. No, I don't make hats, but I did sell them for a while.
Mhm.
And second, honestly, is gonna be Howl, which feels like a generic choice, but it's like I've been around a lot of people who don't recognize things about themselves, and then like seen a lot of people who either do recognize it and change or don't. And so I like him for being that representation of growth. And special shout out to Solomon, because that bitch is terrifying.
But she's also, I really liked how she came around.
She's
the end.
kind of impartial.
Yeah.
She's impartial, and she created a war because she wanted to talk to Howl. And she made tiny mini clones of him to wait on her.
Yeah. And then turn one into a dog.
And then when Howl, when she saw that like things were fine, she's like, all right, we're turning the war off.
I'm sorry you don't like girl boss power. That's
no,
my bad.
I'm shouting her out.
Yeah.
Because she's terrifying.
I was going to say, I think that it's the opposite, Tom. I think it's like remarkable.
To me, that's not like, terrifying. To me, I'm like, how do I get some of that?
But it's all, I mean, like, it's also,
Tom.
not to create a whole debate here, but it's not something you would see in American cinema either.
No.
That would be a dude. That would be a dude.
I think they tried. I think they
just
tried.
Like casually brushed off Turnip Head's like, oh, I'm in love with the main character. And also Solomon is like, oh, I crafted this war, but we'll shut it off. Like,
time for this war to end.
There's two things that's like,
well, I mean,
hold on. It's just crazy.
It's Miyazaki as well talking about the fickleness of war as well, of like how it's just
the pointlessness,
a whim of someone who's in power who can just be like, let's do a war, let's not do a war, and it's always for they never suffer, and it's always the people, the bystander, the civilians, the soldiers. So I'll get into mine. It's copy paste Sophie and Howl. And Sophie, and I've always bring this up, and I'll bring it up every time, it's because Miyazaki female characters aren't always just princesses needing to be saved by a prince. And also, Howl, and one thing I really enjoyed is the aspect of him when he goes out at night and he fights the other wizards and sorcerers. He says they're going to regret doing that because they'll never be able to go back. And it's that sacrifice of their humanity to do that. And it's something that he's always, battling with of every time I go out there, I come out less human or less me. And also shout out, Christian Bale, babe. You know what I'm saying? I gotta, when Spirited Away came out, he literally said, I will voice any character you want me to voice. And so I've only had the dub experience. And I think I did the sub version once, but like, it's just interesting to hear Christian Bale be soft-spoken and to be kind and gentle when you were expecting to be like, Rudy or Rar. I mean, even in Ford versus Ferrari, he's like, that's a stupid thing. He's like an asshole to people in a way, but it's not like rude. Him doing that and just hearing him being gravelly.
Bro, watch Newsies.
Oh yeah,
and get back.
Right. Hearing him be gravelly 1 second, and then like when he's telling Sophie to escape back to the castle, he's like, "You're gonna do this. This is a ring. It'll go over there." Like, I was like, "Wow, he's a nice guy." It's like, what a nice person.
So pleasant.
So yeah,
I gotta watch the dubbed version. I haven't in a really long time.
It's
I like it.
I mean,
but I'm also nostalgia on the dub.
Yeah, Calcifer is Billy Crystal. I gotta give a shout out to Billy Crystal, man. I love Billy Crystal. But to see him play this part it's a very different. I mean, it's still funny, but it's not the same kind of like humor that he usually does. It's really well done.
Yeah.
John Lasseter had to conference call to direct him via TV.
Wow.
And I was like, that's how much they were like, we have to make sure Billy Crystal, because I think this is right after Monsters Inc. when it came out in the States.
Really?
So,
wow.
And so they were like, okay, Billy Crystal is like Disney royalty at this point. And then they were like, okay, now you're going to be into Howl's Moving Castle. That's what I think Lasseter said. Like, if there's one person who could bring the heart of Calcifer, it's Billy Crystal for the American audience.
But you also have like
wow.
like Hollywood royalty, like Gene Simmons playing old Sophie
Yeah,
and Lauren Bacall, The Witch of the Waste. I mean, that's like Hollywood royalty. Like, you look at their credits and you're like, oh, damn. Like, and this was Gene Simmons' last thing that she did, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So
Her last big thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, favorite characters, favorite parts. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we wrap this episode up with Howl's Moving Castle?
I don't think any qualms exist. So
No qualms exist.
Yeah, I don't.
Well,
really
it's
have
not
any.
my favorite Ghibli movie.
Wow. No, you're done now. You go.
Wait, I do have like, there's a scene that really confuses me,
All right, let's talk.
right?
Shoot.
There's actually two scenes. So the one where he like turns into green slime and Markle's like, oh, he does this every time he gets dumped.
Mhm.
But we don't really see any evidence of him being like a flirt. In the book, he is, but
Big time.
in the movie, it just never comes across. Like it seems
It's in
like
background.
exactly.
It's all the girls like,
but
ooh.
because really only his time, all he has time for is to fight and to come back and sleep.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's all we really see, aside from him picking Sophie up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was just like one of those nods to the book of like,
I think also it's kind of one of those like there's so much movie in one movie, and it's kind of like if they were going to add to show like he just got out of a relationship, or like having the Witch of the Waste be his ex, I think is supposed to be also in terms of like
how long he's been a playboy.
well, I think of like OG Asian sensibilities of like, you know, like at least for me, back when I was watching Japanese dramas and K-dramas, no one kisses until the season finale, baby. And so like relationships is very sacred. And so hearing how like, oh, you were with her? And then it's like it's one of those, ooh, so like who else has he been with? It kind of like one story is the inference that you need, that like, oh, he's been with people.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like, oh, you're not just married and happy. What was the other confusing scene?
It's not really confusing. It was more of just like when she runs into that doorway,
the black door
room. Is that? I mean, again, I haven't read that part in the book, but it's just like initially when she walks in, he has all these like things.
When he's like a giant monster thingy, and it's got all.
But then she runs in, and it's just like this black hollow, and then he's just there as his self, and he can't change back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the first time that she tells him she loves him, and then she wakes up in her bed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, excuse me, what?
Oh yeah, it took me a while to realize, like, I feel like they could have communicated mildly more that was a dream sequence.
But was it? That's what I'm saying. But was it?
I think it was, because you see his actual room, and it's same. It's like not the same, but it's just as hoardery, where he's got a bunch of beautiful gems and things around him. But it's like
he could have been that big animal and just pushed everything.
I mean, we could always go.
I mean, we see him change the castle before or after. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's just, I need room for this form. I'm going to change the castle to be this thing.
Based on
so I can fit in here.
That he's got to like move Calcifer and do like a whole ritual. I think that is just a dream sequence, because that would take too much magic for him to change that much. Yeah. So I do think it was a dream, but still kind of for
the whatever gems and stuff like on the walls, like
that's true.
Walls. So I mean that's just a scene that baffles me, because it's just like it's like Miyazaki's like creaking the door open and ring, bing, nope, never mind.
We're going through Sophie's experience. Yeah. Maybe she's also still baffled.
Figures it out at the end.
Guys,
she gets a taste of what she's thinking.
She gets the dude.
we gotta do the book at some point. There's just so many. I'm so excited for you to finish reading it, Haneri, because like,
I'm close.
There's so much.
It's not even that long, right?
It's not. You could read it in a, like, if you were really industrious, you could read it in a day, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Read slow.
It took me a while. But you could if you wanted.
But yeah, thank you for coming on the show, Haneri.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice getting to chat with you.
So when you're new, so when and where when will we find your new single?
Oh yeah, it comes out September 18th. I'm so excited for it. September 18th. It's the funnest song to do because it's the most conversational song. So you can give it to any fuckboy you know.
Perfect.
Or any girls that know any fuckboys, which means it's just really relatable. But people also don't say what they mean. So, why didn't you say so? It comes out September 18th on all music platforms. So.
Is there any way that do you like pre-save it on Spotify? Like how can people keep an eye out for it?
We are going, I am going to put a pre-save link out on my Instagram and my Facebook. But the fastest way to get all the links is on my Linktree link on Instagram, which is at It's Haneri. ITS.
Give us all the socials.
Haneri. It's all at ITS HANERI. It's Haneri.
It's Haneri. If you type that in Google,
Hi, it's
Yeah, that's the website too.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's
Twitch.
Haneri.com.
yeah. And do we have a title for the song for people to keep an eye out for?
Yep. Why didn't you say so?
Boom. September 18th. Why didn't you say so? Check it out.
Yes.
dope.
Can't wait.
oh my gosh, I'm so excited to hear it.
This is a blast.
Oh, thank you for being
As
so
fun
on.
as I am.
Well, thank you again for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me.
Sweet.
So nice to meet you
Nice
guys.
meeting
Nice
you.
to meet you
Come
as
back
well.
for Kenshin.
Well, wasn't that fun?
Yes.
Back to you, Josh. Yes, it was.
It's gonna rain. But that was an awesome interview. It was
That's great.
it was nice to get a little bit of the tidbits of Haneri's career, but also to get into the nerdy bits. I love that when
Yeah.
that's what I
It
love
has-
about our show.
It has been
Talking
so
about
hard to not talk about, like being friends with Haneri and being a fan of Haneri. We actually watched the movie together and then like started talking about it. We were like, no, save it for the podcast. Save it for the podcast.
You just did what we do to you all the time. Are you kidding me?
I know. And I got mad at Tom about it once, so
Uh-huh.
he's gonna hold
Yeah.
that over my head
Facts.
forever.
Yeah.
But
that was
yeah.
great.
But
Everybody comes back for Kenshin.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck boys, watch out. She's
Yeah.
coming for you.
She's gonna
Everybody
stop.
do
Hide your
check
fuck boys,
out.
hide your fuck girls.
No.
She's coming.
everybody do make sure to check out her single "Why Didn't You Say So." Coming soon. It is coming soon. And check out all of her social media. We will put all of that information in the posts in the description of this episode. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you all. Do share us with your friends, your family. Stop by our
enemies.
website. If you are brand new to Nerd On, check out that website, nerdon.tv. It has all of the information of everything that we do. Our other shows, we stream on Twitch. We do a lot, and all of that information is on our website. All social media is Nerd On TV. So wherever you like to go, search Nerd On
All of
TV, and
We
there
there.
we are.
And send it to your local fuck boy.
No.
Do stop by, rate and review us. That kind of stuff really does. It not only helps us grow, but it's actually a really exciting time for us because when we get a review, we share it with each other and
Like,
we
oh my
all get
god, did
excited.
you see what they said? It's amazing.
Please.
It helps
Rate
us
and
grow.
review.
And Tom just says, it's not good enough yet.
Yep.
We're not
There's
gonna
some sort of belittlement that happens.
We have to be better.
Man, everyone gets reviews.
Yeah.
Facts. Everyone does.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway.
that has been it. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. You know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.